As part of our role at Viva, we know that sometimes the key to customer success is to work with them to create an accurate plan that drives innovative, valuable outcomes. More and more often, we find ourselves helping customers understand what it means to develop in an agile way. So what does agile mean? Some of you may be aware of Agile framework. Others may have just heard the term and are not sure what it means. The term Agile refers to the ability to move quickly and easily by becoming more flexible and adaptable. Agile is not a methodology. This may come as a surprise, but instead it provides guidance on how to choose methods and procedures that would work best for your project. In other words, Agile is a collection of beliefs that teams can use for making decisions about how to do the work of developing software. The Agile Manifesto says that we can develop software better by valuing the items on the left side of the list more than the items on the right side. We should value individuals and interactions over processes and tools. Working software over comprehensive documentation. Customer collaboration over contract negotiation. Responding to change over following the plan. While there is value on the items on the right, we value the items on the left more. Sprint planning at Viva consists of 3 primary considerations: principles, frameworks, and dynamics. A precondition for successful implementation using some key principles would be that application configuration begins with our standard configuration. The key principles in this case are: time boxing is as per feature area, all of the sprints having identical activity structure, and users getting application experience from the very first configuration sprint. The benefits here are predictable execution, steady high pace and intensity, and high user adoption. Agile can follow many different frameworks, and customers may even pick and mix concepts from them. Time boxing is a time management tool that helps to keep focus on the priorities by limiting the available time for task completion. You allocate a reasonable amount of time to an activity, and that activity must be completed within that time frame. One crucial part of time boxing in Agile frameworks is that it creates a structured and repeatable system. For example, you know in advance that the planning session is coming up in 1 week. You know in advance that it'll last up to 4 hours and only 4 hours. Scrum is a framework for Agile projects and works best when used by companies with a simple organizational structure. The basic construct is the Scrum team. Within Scrum, projects are conducted during a sprint, which is a specific time box where various ceremonies occur. A cycle lasts from 1 to 4 weeks. SAFe is an Agile framework usually applied when large companies want to expand the Agile ways of working beyond the teams. The basic construct is the Agile release train. This is a virtual organization that plans, commits, develops, and deploys work together. SAFe follows more or less the same structure as Scrum. An iteration lasts for about 2 weeks. During this, they follow a plan, do, check, adjust method. There is not a framework which is better than the others. And as you can see, Agile projects can run very differently depending on the framework and concepts. There are many different paths a customer can choose when going Agile. The duration of sprints or iterations can vary from project to project, but normally falls somewhere between 2 and 5 weeks. We mentioned earlier that it is important to have a set activity structure for all sprints. This activity structure should include some of the following meetings and work. Common meetings include daily Scrum, demo, team planning, refinement, team review, team retrospective, design workshops, spikes or checkpoints, and cross-team synchronization. Work within a sprint could include configuration, dry run testing, deployment, documentation, and user stories review. By now, it should be clear that there is many different ways to approach sprint planning. Here's an example of a 5-week sprint using the time box framework. Pre-work for a sprint includes sprint scope, having the standard configuration available, and defining requirements and user stories. Planning outputs of this sprint would be our configuration tracker, our completed process exercises, our development sandbox being configured, a configuration backlog created or updated, and user stories reaching the definition of done. In parallel to the work being done in this 5-week sprint, test case specification and dry run testing is conducted for the previous sprint. Now that you have seen that there is many different approaches to sprint planning, you may be wondering, where do we begin when starting a new Agile project at Viva? Let's see how we put this knowledge into practice.